Boys and girls, today I want to introduce you to the concept of the notice and note strategy again and again. And again, I keep showing you this poster. And so here it is. And again, when a word, phrase, image, or situation is mentioned over and over, why does this keep happening? And we want to ask ourselves that because that can give us information and insights into the story. So, I have it written for you here again, and my niece helped me with the artwork. She went to the beach today in Santa Cruz, so she grew me some sand and a sun, and it doesn't have anything to do with school, but it was just too cute to not leave up there for you. So, back to again and again. When a word, phrase, image, or situation is mentioned again and again, stop. Why does this keep happening? And there are a few here, I think, in this story that have come up again and again, and I've missed some opportunities to share them. But I will fix that today. Chapter 17, Mrs. Donnelly. I left 4 messages for Frank Kazaski before he finally called me back. He was apologetic. Sorry, Flora, you know I'm chairing the principals' conference this year, and it's just details. Sorry to bother you when you're so busy. I thought I'd better check up on Cap Anderson. Has he been fitting in any better? Fitting into what? He asked. The age of Aquarius? I felt my heart sink. That bad, huh? Actually, not really. I had the boy pegged as a train wreck, but considering how odd he is and how sheltered his life has been, things could be a lot worse. He has friends? I asked hopefully. I'm going to pause here for a minute. First of all, Frank Kazaski has now mentioned this principals conference at least twice, possibly 3 times in the course of this story. And so I'm going to stop and say, why does this keep happening? And the reason, from my background knowledge and experience in life, is he's very proud that he's chairing the principals conference, and he wants people to know how important he is. I also wonder if the author is kind of letting us know that this is going to be part of a problem later on. Let's see what happens. The other thing I noticed that comes up again and again when we talk about situations or experiences is that from my background knowledge, the reference to the age of Aquarius is from the 60s. And we know that Cap's been living on a commune, which was a popular thing to do in the 60s. And his hair, they keep mentioning that again and again, straight from the 60s. So I'm thinking that the author wants us to understand how out of touch he is with the time period that he's in now. Okay? So that's important. Moving on. Not friends exactly. More like followers. Followers? Ever since that stunt with the school bus, the kids just flocked to him. He put together a tie-dyeing clinic with the art teacher. You wouldn't believe the turnout. It was, he chuckled, what did they call big events back in the 60s? A happening. I supplied automatically. Right, and that's the least of it. He picks up a guitar in the music room and strums a few old Beatles tunes, and pretty soon he's got 20 people in there singing along. He's running some kind of martial arts class on the front lawn. He's got more kids working on the Halloween dance than will probably come that night. He's even got a few meditators. If I didn't know the kid's history, I'd probably have the police making sure he wasn't setting up a cult. It triggered an explosion of images from my own childhood at Garland. Cult was exactly the word for it, with Rain as its philosopher/guru. Still, the news made me breathe easier. That's a load off my mind. When I found out they made him 8th grade president, well, Sophie filled me in on what that might mean. I've heard those rumors too, he admitted. It certainly hasn't gone smoothly for the last few in that office. But we don't want to be the only middle school in America with no student government. So we threw the dice, and this time we lucked out. Okay, not an again and again moment, but I have to just say, if you know that's happening, investigate. Talk to the kids. Solve the problem. You're the adult. Mr. Kazaski kind of he rubs me the wrong way. Thank heavens, but I should have realized that Cap was holding his own in his new life. He was still a fish out of water, but he didn't seem to be quite so thrown by every little thing as he had been when I first brought him home. One major clue was the fact that he was taking a genuine interest in that school. As a social worker, I kept current yearbooks from all the buildings in my district. Not only was Cap borrowing the Claveridge books, but he was spending hours studying them. Imagine a boy who had never had even a single classmate now wanting to know about more than 1,000 of them. I found it heartwarming. Things were even thawing slightly between Cap and my daughter. Mind you, that had more to do with a change in Sophie than a change in Cap. She was in a better state of mind because her father had finally remembered to send her back her extremely belated birthday present, duly engraved. Truth be told, I'd never expected to see it again, and I don't think Sophie had either. So imagine my surprise when she opened a padded mailer with no return address and pulled out that silver bangle. There was no card, not even a scribbled one. The only thing that spoke for the gift was the engraving on the inside of it. All you need is love. To be honest, the inscription threw me a little. It certainly didn't sound like Bill Donnelly I used to be married to. His idea of sentimentality was the presentation of the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the Super Bowl. But I guess he could still surprise me. He certainly got this one right. Sophie was thrilled. It almost made up for the fact that he had walked out of her life yet again. So we keep hearing how he walks out of her life again and again, and I think that our author wants us to understand or empathize with the idea that sometimes traumatic things like a parent leaving a child's life or being inconsistent can be really hurtful and affect how they interact with others. That's my background knowledge as an adult, but maybe as a student you have a different idea, but they keep talking about Bill Donnelly leaving her life and coming back unexpectedly. Even with the new, kinder, gentler Sophie, Cap was still a whole lot nicer to her than she was to him. He probably had a crush on her. An attractive high school girl had to look good to an 8th grader, especially one who had barely laid eyes on a female who wasn't his grandmother. I couldn't prove that, of course, but one day I came home from work and the two of them were on the couch in front of Trigonometry in Tears, that awful teen soap opera geared to the interest level of chimpanzees and various species of plant life. That was beautiful descriptive language. That awful teen soap opera geared to the interest level of chimpanzees and various species of plant life. A steamy makeout scene was taking place on the screen. Sophie was watching it intently, and more to the point, Cap was watching Sophie. He was a difficult one to read, but I believe he was trying to work up the guts to lean over and put his arm around her. So I slammed my briefcase down on the kitchen counter and said the first thing I could think of. "Who's up for a nice tall glass of lemonade?" "Mother!" Sophie exclaimed in exasperation. "What century is this?" I told myself I was protecting my daughter, but the truth is I was protecting Cap from what Sophie would have done to him if he'd made a move on her. The pain of my own adjustment from Garland was decades in the past, but it felt like yesterday when I watched this poor boy. I took Frank Kazaski at his word when he said Cap was doing well, but I knew I wouldn't sleep at night until he was once again with Rain, hobbling back towards the 60s as fast as her pinned hip would carry both of them. Again and again, we hear the references to the 60s. The Happening, the tie-dye, it just keeps going. So there's this important message about some of the values that happened then and how they're transferring into this generation. So, readers, as you read, you're going to want to notice again and again moments in your books and put your own thinking and background knowledge into them to think about, why does this keep happening? What's the author trying to teach you or make you think about? Okay? All right, well, I enjoyed reading with you. I'll catch up with you another day. Bye.